The first time Ethan saw the housing assignment, he thought it was a mistake. Roommate, Lyra Tethrin. He had expected another human student in the Interstellar Cultural Exchange Program. Instead, the name belonged to someone from a planet called Erythra, a water-rich world on the far edge of the Alliance's star charts. The exchange program had strict rules. Every human participant was paired with an alien visitor to share living space for 1 year. The goal was to learn about each other's culture in daily life, cooking, cleaning, schedules, and habits. Still, Ethan couldn't help feeling nervous. He had never even spoken to someone from Erythra before. He arrived at the housing block carrying a duffel bag and a box of tools. The building was a tall silver structure near the city's spaceport, filled with all kinds of species. Some were human-sized, others large enough to duck under doorways. A few floated in spherical drones filled with liquid. Apartment 12B had 2 rooms, a shared kitchen, and 1 bathroom. Ethan pushed the door open and stepped inside. The air was faintly cool and smelled like the ocean after rain. "Hello?" he called. From the kitchen, a figure stepped out. She looked almost human. Tall, slim, wearing loose dark clothes and a scarf around her neck. Her eyes were a deep shade of teal, almost glowing. "You must be Ethan," she said in smooth, careful English. "I am Lyra. Welcome." Ethan smiled awkwardly and set his bag down. "Hi. Yeah, I guess we're roommates now." They shook hands. Her grip was gentle but strangely cool, like touching water through glass. Over the next few days, Ethan noticed certain patterns about Lyra. She never ate in front of him. Instead, she drank from sealed containers of blue liquid that arrived by delivery drone. She wore long sleeves even when the weather was hot. Most curious of all, she kept a strict rule about the bathroom. "I need the bathroom from 8 to 9 every evening," she told him on the first day. "Please do not enter during that time. It is for my maintenance." "Maintenance?" Ethan repeated. She hesitated, as if searching for a word. "Bathing. But it is not like human bathing. The conditions must be exact." Ethan nodded. He was curious, but he respected her privacy. Everyone had their own customs. One night, about 2 weeks later, a storm rolled in from the coast. The city's lights flickered under heavy rain. Ethan was working at his desk, repairing a small drone, when the power went out completely. The apartment went dark except for the dim glow from the street lamps outside. Ethan grabbed a flashlight and stepped into the hallway. From behind the bathroom door, he heard splashing water. Lyra?" "The power's out," he called. No answer. A low hum came from the pipes, followed by a faint clicking sound. The noise reminded him of tapping Morse code, but faster, almost like something alive moving through the plumbing. Ethan frowned. He tried the light switch. Nothing. He decided to check the breaker panel, but as he reached the living room, he noticed water on the floor. A thin trail led from under the bathroom door. That was strange. Lyra never left water outside. "Hey, are you okay in there?" he asked, stepping closer. Still no reply. Ethan hesitated. The rule was never enter during bathing. But the water was, spreading, and the clicking in the pipes was getting louder. He knocked again. "Lyra, I'm coming in, all right?" The handle turned easily. He pushed the door open and stopped. The bathroom was filled with steam and dim blue light. The water in the tub glowed faintly, swirling as if stirred by invisible hands. In the middle sat Lyra, except it wasn't the Lyra he knew. Her human-like skin was gone. In its place was a semi-transparent body, as if made from liquid crystal, glowing faintly from within. Long, ribbon-like tendrils floated around her, shifting in the water like seaweed. Her eyes were larger, luminous, with patterns of light moving across them. For a second, Ethan thought he was looking at a living sculpture made of water and starlight. Lyra gasped when she saw him. The tendrils curled in tightly. and she sank, lower into the glowing water. "Ethan, out! You should not see this. I'm sorry," Ethan stammered, still frozen in the doorway. "The power went out. I thought something was wrong." She shook her head quickly, droplets of light scattering from her tendrils. "No, you do not understand. No one here can know what I really am." Ethan finally stepped back, pulling the door halfway shut. "Okay, I won't tell anyone, but—" He hesitated, glancing at the glowing water on the floor. "Is that normal?" Lyra's expression changed. Her glowing eyes shifted toward the pipes in the wall. The clicking sound had returned, louder this time, echoing through the room like a signal. "That," she whispered, "is not normal." The glow in her body dimmed slightly, as if with fear. Ethan's heart began to pound. "What is it?" Lyra looked at him with an intensity that made the air feel colder. "It's a message, and it's not from Erythra." The clicking in the pipes grew sharper, almost like claws tapping metal. Outside, thunder rolled through the city. Ethan's hand gripped the bathroom doorframe. The glowing shapes in the swirling water looked like symbols, twisting and fading before he could make sense of them. The clicking sound in the pipes matched the movements, like a strange underwater language. Lyra's translucent form shivered. Her tendrils curled tighter around her body. "They are calling," she said softly, "but not to speak with me, to find me." Ethan stepped inside carefully, the water under his shoes glowing faintly. "Lyra, I think you should explain. I've seen whatever this is. You can trust me." Her glowing eyes flicked toward him, uncertain. "Trust is easy to say. It is harder to give. My people, the Tethrani, do not survive long away from water. On dry worlds like yours, we must wear containment suits that mimic human form. The one you see every day is not me, only a shell." Ethan glanced at her true form, a living shape of liquid and light. "So this is what you really look like?" She nodded. "Yes. The suit lets me walk among humans, but it is heavy, slow, and fragile. I must return to water to restore myself. Here, I can move freely. Here, I am me." The clicking in the pipes grew sharper, like someone knocking urgently from far away. Lyra's glowing patterns flickered. "They are sending a locator pulse," she said. "It is how my people communicate underwater over great distances. But this is not a friendly call. This pattern, it belongs to hunters." Ethan frowned. "Hunters? Like predators?" Her voice darkened. "Not predators, bounty takers. They capture my kind and sell us to worlds that keep us in tanks as rare creatures. They do not care if we live or die." Ethan felt a chill, not from the cold air, but from the thought of someone turning Lyra into property. "How did they even find you?" Lyra shook her head, tendrils swaying in the water. "I do not know. But the signal means they are close. Close enough to use your planet's water systems to reach me." The lights flickered again, and the clicking stopped abruptly. Silence filled the room except for the faint drip of glowing water from the tub. Ethan exhaled slowly. "All right. If they're using the pipes, we can track them back. I know how the city's plumbing is mapped. We can find where the signal came from." Lyra's patterns brightened slightly. "You would help me? Even after seeing this?" Ethan smiled faintly. "You're still my roommate, and humans don't let their friends get hunted." Something in her gaze softened, and for a moment she almost looked human again, until a ripple of light passed through her liquid form. They moved quickly. Lyra slipped into her containment suit, the liquid of her true form drawing up into the artificial human shape. Ethan grabbed a small handheld scanner from his workshop and opened the maintenance hatch under the kitchen sink. "City water lines run through here," Ethan explained, pointing at the thick metal pipes. "If they sent a signal, we can measure the echo and find where it started." He pressed the scanner to the pipe. A faint, irregular pulse showed on the display, the same pattern Lyra had heard. Ethan's eyebrows rose. It's strong. That means it's close. They followed the signal through the building's hallways and down the stairs to the basement. The air grew colder as they descended. The sound of dripping water echoed around them. The basement was mostly empty, just storage rooms, electrical, boxes, and a large water filtration tank for the whole building. A single dim light flickered overhead. Ethan checked the scanner again. The signal's coming from inside that tank. Lyra's suit shifted slightly, the faintest shimmer passing over her. That is not natural. They approached the tank. On one side, near the base, something metallic protruded from the surface. A small black device with blinking red lights. Ethan crouched down. That's not part of any water system I've seen. Looks alien. Lyra knelt beside him. She touched the device with her gloved hand, then quickly pulled back as if burned. It is a hydrolocator. They drop them into water systems to detect our life signatures. This one is tuned to my exact energy pattern. Ethan's jaw tightened. So they've been tracking you through the city's water supply. She nodded grimly. Yes. And now they know I am here. Ethan reached for his multi-tool. Then, let's pull it out before it sends anything else. Before he could touch it, the lights went out again. From the darkness came the sound of footsteps, heavy, deliberate, metallic. A faint blue glow appeared at the far end of the basement, hallway followed by 3 tall figures. They wore black armored suits with smooth, round helmets, and each carried a long, spear-like weapon. Lyra whispered, "Hunters." The figures moved silently, their glowing visors sweeping across the room. One raised a small scanner. Its lights blinked rapidly when pointed at the water tank. "They've found the locator," Ethan murmured. One of the hunters spoke in a low, guttural language. The others began walking toward the tank. Ethan's mind raced. They were outnumbered and trapped in a basement. He glanced at Lyra. "Can you change? Here?" She hesitated. "In the suit, I am slow. Out of the suit, I cannot survive long without water." The hunters were almost to the tank now. Ethan made a quick decision. He whispered urgently, "Then get in the water. I'll distract them." Lyra's eyes widened in the suit's faceplate. "You will be caught." "Not if I'm fast." As the hunters reached the tank, Ethan stepped out from behind the pipes. "Hey, basement's off limits to visitors." The lead hunter turned his visor toward him. The spear's tip crackled with electric light. Before they could act, there was a splash behind them. Lyra's suit floated empty on the water's surface. From below, a shimmering form darted out, tendrils wrapping around the nearest hunter's legs and pulling him into the tank with impossible speed. Ethan grabbed the empty suit and ducked behind the pipes as chaos broke out. Water splashed everywhere. The hunters shouted in their strange tongue. One of them swung his spear wildly, striking the side of the tank with a loud clang. Cliffhanger. In the confusion, Ethan spotted the hydrolocator's lights change from red to green, and a small antenna extended from its side. Lyra was fighting the hunters, but the device had just sent a signal, somewhere above them. The green light on the hydrolocator blinked steadily, and the small antenna rotated with a faint mechanical hum. Ethan didn't need an alien translation to understand what it meant. "It's sending your location," he called over the noise of splashing water. Lyra was a blur in her true form, weaving through the tank like a ribbon of living light. Her tendrils wrapped around the legs of one hunter, yanking him under, then darted away before the others could strike. But the locator's signal didn't care about the fight. It had already done its job. One hunter slammed his spear into the water, sending a crackle of electricity through the surface. Lyra recoiled, her glow dimming for a moment. Ethan's stomach twisted. They weren't just trying to catch her. They were ready to harm her if it meant ending the struggle quickly. He ducked lower behind the pipes, yanked the multi-tool from his belt, and crawled toward the locator. The hunter's attention was on the water, not the small human slipping along the floor. The device was bolted to the tank, and thick black cables fed into it from inside. Ethan flipped open the multi-tool's cutter and went for the cables first. Sparks flew when the blade bit into alien metal, but the device still blinked green. "Come on," he muttered, twisting his wrist to reach the core panel. The lead hunter noticed him. A guttural bark of words made the others turn. One raised his spear. Ethan's instincts screamed at him to move, but before the weapon could strike, a wave of glowing water surged from the tank. Lyra's tendrils lashed out, wrapping around the spear and yanking it away. "Finish it!" she shouted. Ethan pried. Open the locator's casing. Inside was a crystal sphere suspended in a ring of tiny magnetic arms. The sphere pulsed faintly, each pulse matching the green light on the outside. He thought fast. The signal was clearly light-based inside the crystal, which meant it could be disrupted if the internal structure shattered. Ethan took a deep breath and smashed the multi-tool's handle into it. The sphere cracked, the green light flickered, and went out. The hunters froze for a split second, as if unsure whether to keep fighting. Lyra took that moment to surge forward, slamming one of them against the far wall of the tank. Another slipped on the wet floor and crashed into the pipes. Ethan scrambled back, pulling himself up behind a row of crates. "Lyra, go! Now!" She shot out of the tank, her liquid body reshaping midair into a smaller, faster form. She hit the floor beside him and reformed into something close to human shape, though her edges still shimmered faintly. They bolted for the stairs. The basement door slammed behind them, but heavy footsteps echoed from below. "They're following," Ethan panted. "They will not give up now," Lyra replied, her voice steady but low. "Even without the locator, they saw me, and they will tell others. Then we need to lose them before they get that chance." They took the service stairs 2 at a time, emerging into a hallway filled with the faint smell of rain from an open window. Outside, the storm still rumbled, lightning flashing against the city's skyline. Ethan paused to think. The signal came through the pipes, right? If they can use the city's water network, we can use it too. Lyra tilted her head, droplets still sliding off her form. "You mean to send our own message?" He shook his head. "No. To find where their signal started. If we track the source, maybe we can find where they're operating from and shut it down before they call in backup." They slipped into Ethan's room. He pulled out his portable scanner again, tapping its side until the display lit. The locator's pulse might be gone, but the pipes still carried faint echoes of the hunters. "Earlier transmissions? There," Ethan said, pointing to a sharp reading. "The origin point's not far. About 5 blocks. Lyra leaned closer to the screen. "That is close enough for them to reach me quickly, but far enough that they hide from your human authorities. Which means," Ethan said, "we can get there first." The streets were slick with rain as they moved through the city. Lyra kept her hood up, the shimmer of her suit hidden in the dim light. Ethan carried a small waterproof case filled with tools, slung over one shoulder. The reading led them to an old warehouse by the river. The building was dark, its windows boarded, but faint blue light glowed from inside through gaps in the wood. Ethan crouched behind a stack of crates near the entrance. "Looks like they've set up some kind of base." Lyra's eyes glimmered, faintly under the hood. "If the hunters are here, their ship cannot be far." Ethan peeked through a crack in the boards. Inside, a large tank filled with greenish water dominated the room. Alien machinery surrounded it, cables snaking across the floor. 2 hunters stood guard, while another worked at a console, the screen filled with strange symbols. "That tank," Lyra whispered. "It is for holding my kind. They plan to bring me here first." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Not happening." They needed a distraction. Ethan pointed toward a drainage grate near the building. "Can you get in through that? It connects." To the river. Lyra glanced at it, then back at him. Yes, but only in my true form. Then I'll keep them busy. You disable whatever they're using to send signals. If we're lucky, we'll make them think their operation's blown. Lyra gave a small nod. Do not be captured. I was about to tell you the same thing. Ethan waited until Lyra slipped silently into the grate before circling around to the side door. He loosened a panel with his multi-tool and triggered the old alarm system. A shrill, outdated siren began to wail, echoing through the rain. Inside, the hunters snapped to attention. The one at the console barked something and moved toward the entrance. The others spread out, scanning for the source of the noise. Beneath their feet, a faint ripple of glowing water slid into the main tank. Lyra rose silently, her tendrils already wrapping around the nearest machine. She yanked, tearing cables free in a shower of sparks. One of the hunters spun toward the tank. Too late. The water exploded upward, knocking him into the wall. Ethan darted inside, grabbed a loose piece of machinery, and hurled it at the console. Smashing the display! Ethan, now! Lyra's voice echoed through the chaos. He sprinted toward her. The last hunter reached for a weapon, but Lyra's tendrils wrapped around it and wrenched it away. Together, they dashed for the exit. Behind them, the machine sparked and hissed. The tank water spilled across the floor, carrying pieces of broken equipment toward the drains. Cliffhanger. As they reached the street, Lyra's gaze turned upward. Through a gap in the clouds, a massive shadow moved across the night sky. A ship, silent and dark, descending toward the city. Her voice was cold. The mothership is here. The massive shadow of the mothership loomed over the city, its outline lit by the occasional flash of lightning. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He had seen pictures of Alliance transport ships before, but this one wasn't built for peaceful visits. Its shape was sharp, predatory, like a giant spearhead drifting silently through the clouds. Lyra's hood dripped rainwater as she stared upward. They came faster than I thought. That means the hunters sent their signal before we reached the warehouse. Ethan clenched his fists. Then we've only got minutes before more of them land. As if on cue, a smaller craft detached from the mothership and began descending, its engines glowing faintly. It was heading straight toward the river, close to where they were standing. They will use the water to move quickly, Lyra said grimly. They know I cannot survive long on dry land. If they control the rivers and tanks, they control my escape. Ethan glanced at the dark water rushing past under the bridge. Then we'll make the water work against them. They hurried back to their apartment building. Ethan pulled open a locked maintenance hatch in the basement, revealing the central control valves for the entire block's plumbing system. The pipes rattled faintly as water flowed through them. Here's the plan, Ethan said, pointing to a set of levers and dials. We can redirect water into unused corridors, stairwells, and basements. If we flood certain areas, you can move freely in your real form while they have to fight through waist-deep water. Lyra's eyes brightened. You would turn your home into an ocean battlefield? Better than letting them take you, he said simply. She looked at him for a long moment, as if trying to read the truth in his voice. Then she nodded. Show me what to do. Minutes later, they were ready. Ethan had rerouted water lines to the hallways and locked the main doors so the hunters would have to force their way in. Lyra had removed her containment suit, her shimmering, true form now swirling in the basement's shallow pool. When the first alien mercenaries entered the building, they were met with a sudden rush of water from above. One slipped, crashing into a wall. Another raised his weapon, but a glowing tendril whipped out from the water and yanked it away. Ethan, watching from a maintenance corridor, shouted, "Keep moving them toward the flooded section." Lyra darted through the water like a living current, knocking the hunters off balance. They tried to regroup, but the narrow, wet corridors slowed them. Every time one lifted his spear, she struck from another angle, never staying in one place long enough to be caught. but the hunters weren't. Foolish. One of them pulled a small device from his belt and dropped it into the water. It sank with a faint glow. Lyra hissed, her patterns flickering. "Electric net charge! Get clear!" Ethan dove behind a crate just as the device released a shockwave through the water. The current sent bright ripples through Lyra's body, making her shudder. She recoiled into a side passage. The lead hunter barked an order. Two of them advanced, following the water trail she left behind. Ethan gritted his teeth. If they cornered her, it would be over. He scrambled toward the control valves and yanked a lever. A powerful surge filled the pipes above, and a burst of water exploded from a ceiling vent, knocking one hunter flat. The second tried to stand, but Ethan had already spun another dial, sending another flood roaring down the hall. "Lyra! Now!" he shouted. Her glowing form surged from the side passage, wrapping around the nearest hunter and slamming him into the wall. The last mercenary in the group saw the tide turning and tried to retreat, but Lyra's tendrils coiled around his legs and pulled him under the water until he dropped his weapon. Within minutes, the basement was quiet again, save for the drip of water from the ceiling. Lyra floated near Ethan, her glow returning to a steady rhythm. "They will send more," she said, "and they will not stop until they have me." Ethan wiped water from his face. "Then we have to take the fight to them." Lyra tilted her head. "You mean, to their ship?" "Exactly. If we can get aboard and mess with their systems, maybe we can make them leave Earth, or at least slow them down." She hesitated. "It is dangerous." Ethan gave a small grin. "So is living with a target on your back." They didn't have long to wait. Through a basement window, they saw the smaller craft from the mothership land near the river. 3 hunters emerged, dragging a crate toward the building. From their movements, Ethan guessed it wasn't a weapon. It was a portable containment tank. "They're planning to trap you in that," he whispered. Lyra's glow dimmed. "If they get me inside, it will be too late. Then we make sure they never get the chance." They slipped out through a side door and circled toward the river. The rain had slowed, but the ground was slick. The hunters were focused on preparing the containment tank, its lid already open and filled with some strange, shimmering liquid. Ethan tapped Lyra's shoulder. "I'll cause a distraction. You get inside their craft." She narrowed her eyes. "And if you are caught?" "I'll run faster than they can swim." Before she could argue, Ethan grabbed a loose piece of metal from the ground and hurled it at the tank. It clanged loudly against the side, making all 3 hunters spin around. He ran. The hunters shouted and gave chase. Ethan darted between storage crates and over a low wall, leading them away from the craft. His lungs burned, but he didn't slow. Every second he kept them busy was another second Lyra had. Meanwhile, Lyra slipped into the river, her form blending with the current. She surged up the craft's boarding ramp, tendrils snaking inside to wrap around control levers and alien panels. Sparks hissed as she pulled cables free. By the time the hunters realized what was happening, their craft's engine lights had gone dark. One tried to run back, but Lyra rose from the ramp in a whirl of glowing water, slamming into him like a tidal wave. Ethan, panting heavily, doubled back in time to see her fling the last hunter into the river. They regrouped near the craft. Lyra's voice was firm. "We cannot stay. The mothership will see the loss of its shuttle and send more." Ethan nodded. "Then we take this one and go to them first." She blinked. "You would fly into the enemy's ship?" He grinned, despite the danger. "Humans call it a surprise visit." The stolen craft lifted from the river, slicing through the stormy night toward the massive mothership above. Ethan gripped the small console in front of him, his fingers shaking slightly as the engines thrummed beneath them. Beside him, Lyra hovered, her glowing tendrils brushing lightly against the control panels. "You're sure this will work?" Ethan asked. His voice was steady, but adrenaline made it sound sharp. Lyra's eyes glimmered. It will, but it will require trust. You must follow my guidance exactly. One mistake and the hunters will capture you. Or worse. Ethan swallowed. Trust is something humans do well, he said, attempting humor. Lyra only tilted her head, a faint ripple of light passing over her form, her version of a smile. The smaller craft hummed as it approached the mothership. From below, the alien hunters scrambled, realizing their shuttle was gone. Warning signals flashed across the massive ship's hull as its docking bay opened, and Ethan felt a sudden chill. This ship wasn't designed for diplomacy. It was a predator in the sky, built to capture and dominate. Lyra shifted her tendrils over the control panel. I can access their guidance system through the craft's sensors. If I mimic their signals, we can sneak inside without triggering the alarms immediately. Ethan frowned. So we're going to trick a warship with alien tech? Yes. Humans think creatively, Lyra replied. This is where you help. Ethan exhaled slowly. Right. Let's get to work. Minutes later, the craft had aligned with one of the mothership's secondary docking ports. Lyra extended tendrils into the sensors, and the craft's lights dimmed to near invisibility. Ethan watched the ship's schematics appear on a screen, corridors, airlocks, and several chambers glowing faintly with the Tethrani life signature. There, Lyra whispered. That chamber is holding others of my kind. We must free them first. Ethan nodded. Step 1, sneak in, disable the traps, free your people. Step 2, get out before they realize. Lyra's tendrils tightened on the console. And, step 3, confuse the mothership so it cannot follow us back to Earth. Ethan blinked. That's ambitious, but with you leading, maybe it's possible. The craft docked smoothly, the magnetic clamps locking them inside the mothership's bay. Ethan kept his breath shallow as the doors hissed open. A metallic corridor stretched before them, dimly lit with faint green lights. Lyra led the way, moving silently, her glowing form dimmed to avoid detection. Ethan followed, holding a small flashlight. They passed several hallways, avoiding patrols of alien hunters. The ship smelled of cold metal and water, as if the entire vessel had been washed in some alien ocean. Finally, they reached a chamber filled with tanks. Inside, Tethrani floated in water-filled stasis pods, their bioluminescent bodies faintly glowing. Many were young, some smaller than Lyra, and all were motionless. Lyra's glow brightened. They are safe, for now, but we must hurry. Ethan knelt beside a control panel on one of the pods. Buttons, levers, and alien symbols flashed across the surface. How do we open these? Lyra extended a tendril to the panel. The power comes from the main system. If I disrupt it just enough, the locks release. But I must move carefully. One wrong pulse, and the pods will seal permanently. Ethan watched as Lyra's form shimmered and flickered. A glowing tendril reached into the interface. Sparks hissed and lights blinked. Slowly, one by one, the pods unlocked. The water inside each tank sloshed gently as the Tethrani awoke, confusion and relief glowing across their forms. Ethan exhaled. That's amazing. Lyra looked over her shoulder. We have little time. They will notice the change soon. They guided the freed Tethrani down the corridors. Ethan's heart raced as they passed hunters who seemed to sense something was wrong. He darted behind crates and vents, signaling the aliens to stay quiet. We must get to the central control room, Lyra said. If we disable the hydrostasis chamber ship-wide, no Tethrani will remain trapped here. Ethan frowned. How far? Far enough that a human alone would be lost, Lyra said, her glow pulsing. But together. She gestured at him, her tendrils curling around his shoulder briefly in encouragement. The central control room was a massive chamber, walls lined with panels and blinking lights. Ethan gasped as he realized the scale of it. Hundreds of life support systems feeding every stasis chamber, every water tank, every aquatic environment on the ship. Lyra's tendrils moved rapidly over the controls. I can simulate overloads in the secondary circuits. This will force the main system to divert power, causing temporary chaos. We can use that to free more of my people and escape. Ethan nodded. Then let's do it. With Lyra's guidance, he started manipulating the human-friendly tools she had shown him. Sparks flew, lights flickered, and alarms began to blare. But the system had been successfully tricked. Water rushed through pipes in unexpected directions, freeing Tethrani from minor tanks and creating waves that swept through the corridors. The hunters arrived, panicked and disoriented. Lyra's glow flared as she surged toward them, tendrils lashing, but Ethan noticed something incredible. The hunters were no match for her speed and knowledge of the ship's water currents. He joined in, using panels and tools as distractions, shoving consoles and flipping switches to slow their movements. Together, human ingenuity and Tethrani power created a perfect storm of chaos in the mothership. Lyra's freed people rallied, their bodies shimmering in the flooding corridors. Even the hunters seemed unsure where to strike, slipping and sliding, as water carried them along. Finally, the last major control panel was reached. Lyra pulsed her energy into it, overloading the main system. The ship shuddered violently. Panels shorted out. Water surged in controlled waves through the corridors, and a deep alarm echoed across the mothership. Ethan wiped sweat from his brow. We did it, I think. Lyra floated beside him, her glow soft and steady. It is not over yet. The mothership will not forgive this mistake. Ethan smiled faintly. But it will leave us alone long enough to get back to Earth. Lyra nodded, her tendrils flicking toward a viewport. And Earth will see that humans can fight alongside us, that your species is clever, brave, and resilient. Cliffhanger. As they prepared to escape, the mothership's main view screen lit up with a shadowy figure. Larger than any hunter, its form moving in the water-filled corridors like a living wave. Lyra gasped. They sent their champion, she said, her voice tense. And it knows we are here. If you want, I can continue with Part 6, Humans in the Deep, where Ethan and Lyra face the motherships. The shadow on the mothership's view screen moved with fluid precision. Its shape was enormous, a creature of water and energy, unlike any Ethan had ever imagined. Its glowing tendrils slithered through the corridors, sweeping toward Lyra and the freed Tethrani. Lyra's glow brightened, tendrils coiling around Ethan in a protective gesture. It is their champion, one of the oldest hunters, faster, stronger, smarter than the others. It will test both of us. Ethan swallowed, trying to steady his racing heart. Then we show them what humans can do. Together. Lyra nodded. Follow my lead. Trust in the currents. Trust in yourself. They moved quickly through the flooded corridors of the mothership. The freed Tethrani followed Lyra, creating a river of glowing forms that lit the dim halls. Every step was calculated. The champion moved silently, yet Ethan could sense its presence. A low vibration in the water. A ripple that traveled through the flooded floor like a pulse. Keep calm, Lyra whispered. It hunts by sensing panic. If you panic, it will strike with lethal precision. Ethan focused. Every training session from his human life, running, climbing, thinking under pressure, came into play. He held panels, flipped switches, and created small distractions to redirect the champion's attention. The champion finally appeared at the end of the corridor. It was enormous, taller than any door, with rippling tendrils that glowed with a dangerous blue light. Its eyes, two luminous pools, scanned the corridor, locking onto Lyra and the humans. Lyra surged forward, her tendrils slicing through the water like blades. The champion reacted instantly, countering each movement with unmatched speed. Sparks and glowing water clashed as Lyra danced through the corridor, dodging strikes and protecting the human allies behind her. Ethan realized something. The champion moved predictably when it attacked solely with force. But when he introduced unexpected actions, like sliding crates to block the path or smashing consoles into the water, it hesitated. "Now!" Lyra shouted. She created a spinning vortex with her tendrils, drawing the champion into the center of the water flow. Ethan grabbed a nearby metal panel and hurled it into the vortex, sending the champion off balance. The freed Tethrani joined in, sending synchronized waves through the corridors, confusing the champion further. Water surged, currents collided, and the hall became a chaotic storm of light and motion. Ethan's heart pounded. "This is insane," he muttered. "But it's working." Lyra glanced at him. "Your human ingenuity, throwing obstacles, using the environment. It helps. We are stronger together." The champion roared, a sound that echoed like a tidal wave. Its tendrils lashed out, sending waves that threatened to knock them all down. Ethan ducked behind a console as one tendril swept over his head. Sparks flew, water sprayed, but he noticed a pattern in the champion's attacks. It always followed the nearest target. "I think I see it," he shouted. "It focuses on whoever is closest. If we distract it, we can trap it." Lyra's glow intensified. "Yes, we will lead it to the core chamber. There I can contain it using the water pressure." They lured the champion toward the mothership's central water chamber, a massive tank filled with flowing currents controlled by alien machinery. The freed Tethrani followed, creating glowing trails that acted as decoys. The champion, sensing its prey, followed recklessly. Ethan and Lyra reached the chamber first. Lyra extended her tendrils to the control panels, manipulating the water flows to create a confined spiral in the chamber. "Once it enters, I can hold it in place," she explained. "But you must create the final push." Ethan nodded. He spotted a set of valves that controlled the chamber's pressure. If they opened them simultaneously, the resulting surge could trap the champion long enough for them to escape. "Ready?" he asked. Lyra nodded, her glowing eyes steady. "On 3, 1, 2, 3. Water surged violently, twisting into a spinning vortex that pulled the champion into the center. It struggled, thrashing and lashing its tendrils, but Lyra's control over the currents kept it trapped. Ethan turned the final valve, increasing the pressure. The champion roared, water splashing in towering waves, but it could not escape. Thick, freed Tethrani hovered around, reinforcing Lyra's control with their energy. Together they formed an unbreakable barrier of light and water, containing the predator. Ethan exhaled, exhausted but exhilarated. "We did it. It's trapped." Lyra floated beside him, her glow softening. "Yes. For now. The mothership may retaliate, but we have shown them what humans can do, and that humans are not weak." Ethan smiled faintly. "I guess teamwork between species works pretty well." They moved quickly back to the stolen craft. The freed Tethrani followed, flowing like a river through the corridors. The mothership, now aware of the chaos, began closing its docking bay, but the craft surged forward under Lyra's control. They shot into the night sky, leaving the mothership behind. From the viewport, Ethan saw the city below, rain glistening on rooftops. He glanced at Lyra. "We made it." Lyra's glow pulsed gently. "Yes, but more importantly, we showed them, humans and Tethrani together, that courage, cleverness, and determination are stronger than fear." Ethan laughed softly. High praise coming from someone who's basically made of water. She flickered a tiny smile. "Perhaps. But even water can be strong when guided wisely." They returned to Earth quietly, landing the craft in a hidden river channel. The freed Tethrani dispersed, returning to safe habitats while the hunter's signal went silent. Ethan looked at Lyra, still in her glowing form. "So, what happens now?" Lyra's eyes glimmered with hope. "Now we live, and we learn from each other. Earth will remember tonight that humans are not just strong, but brave, creative, and loyal, and the Tethrani will have allies here." Ethan nodded. "I guess roommate life just got a lot more interesting." She flickered a tiny ripple of amusement. "Indeed." As dawn broke over the city, Ethan and Lyra walked along the riverbank. Humans would never fully understand what had happened that night, but that didn't matter. They had faced overwhelming odds together, proven that courage and intelligence could overcome raw power, and built a bridge between species that would last far longer than a single night of battle. And somewhere above, the mothership retreated, carrying its champion back into the void, reminded that even in the far reaches of the galaxy, humans could not be underestimated.